everyone. My name is Alex, and I am part of the Tribeca New Music team. On Saturday, December 4th, Tribeca New Music will be presenting the world premiere of Neil Rolnick's newest composition, Lockdown Fantasies. It will be performed by both Neil and pianist Geoffrey Burleson. Today, we are lucky enough to have both Neil and Geoffrey here with us to discuss the piece and give us a bit of background into the writing and rehearsing process. Neil and Geoffrey, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing your time with us. Let's jump right in. So the first question that I have is actually for Neil. And Neil, as the title suggests, like you wrote this piece during lockdown. So could you just let us know, a little bit more about your process and like the specific lockdown experiences that inspired this piece?
Well, thanks. I'm glad to be here. The the piece started out as with the idea that I was going to explore the idea of kind of generating how generations work in people. That is how you know you take your kind of genetic history from your grandparents and pass them down to your grandkids. And having had grandparents once upon a time, and now having grandkids, I sort of see the sweep of that. And and when the pandemic hit, all of my plan, I'd done a bunch of work and planning on how I was going to do this big piece, not as big as it turned out, but a big piece. And it, I was just unable to follow any kind of previously laid out plan. It wasn't going to work. I found myself just sort of sitting and staring at the paper and or at the computer screen. And so what I ended up doing, since no one was able to go outside to do anything except go to the grocery store and exercise, I got on my bike and pedaled through the city endlessly. And even though it was February and March, I just bundled up and rode around Manhattan and rode into the Bronx and across bridges and into parks, and just spent a lot of time kind of dealing with all the things that were brought up by COVID in that way, and then coming back home and saying, okay, the one thing I know how to do and I don't know what I'm going to do is to write. So I would just sit down and just write. And over the months that this kept on, I thought, like everyone else, I thought, okay, a month of this, maybe it'll be over. And then it wasn't. And then it continued, and I just got into this pattern of finding ways to get around and get outside of my apartment, and then come back and just put down whatever was in my head, whatever I was hearing, and and I initially called the pieces meditations, because they were really kind of what happened when I sat down and said, okay, I'm just going to be here right now and focus on what I can hear internally. But then the pieces didn't turn out to be very meditative. They turned out to be a wide range of emotions and musical styles and musical directions and feelings. And so they became fantasies.
Oh, well, we're so excited to hear that. I know I am. That's such a beautiful way of writing, and I think that maybe the pandemic was a good opportunity to do that, because I feel like many people probably had that same
Mm-hmm.
sentiment of just kind of needing to sit down and write. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so excited to hear it. Now, switching kind of over to the performance aspect of it, I suppose. Geoffrey, this piece was written for you. So was there a level of collaboration in the writing process? And are there like a specific parts in the piece that are inherently you?
It's great to be here, and that is a very interesting question. Um, Neil and I have known each other for some time, and he's heard me play a bunch of times, and I've known and deeply consumed and loved his music, for a long time as well. So I was absolutely thrilled when he said he wanted to write a big piece for me. And as Neil was speaking about this, I was reminded that we did indeed initiate this project before the pandemic. And the only reason I know that is that we just, met very casually in restaurants a couple of times with no masks on. And, it's somehow how we um, process the before times versus now, even if we're not sure exactly when, something started to happen. Um, and I knew that the electronic part would be very involved, and that was something that I was actually very intrigued about and excited about. And it's really um, from the standpoint of the sonic world of this piece. The solo piano is very, very much the center of it, but the real time processing of the music that I'm playing and some of the filters that the music is going through in real time is just absolutely stunning. So just from the standpoint of orchestration, not just in writing for the piano, but in imagining how the piano sound can be altered in really compelling and effective ways. It's one of the properties of this piece that I'm really thrilled about. Um, as for the writing, it reminds me only on a very fundamental level of another big epic piece by Frederick Shevsky called "The People United Will Never Be Defeated," which is a massive work written in 1976, 32 variations on a Chilean workers' song, which, like Neil's piece, is incredibly polystylistic. This piece runs the gamut, and I'm very polystylistic. I like to play in all styles and love all styles, not necessarily even styles that are um, just endemic to the piano, or some styles where you think the piano isn't really a central instrument, like funk, for example. So the second of these five lockdown fantasies has a huge funk section in it, and that's something I love playing. Um, all of the movements have their own stylistic profiles, but they're all within themselves, sort of stylistically, beautifully all over the map. Um, so I feel like I've gone on this really amazing journey after traversing uh, the piece. Um, there's music that you can vaguely refer to as being in a kind of pop style or progressive pop style or progressive rock style. There's music that's very uh, neoclassical. It sounds like 20th century, mid-century music by composers like Copland. Again, not specifically, just in a very, very general way, which is also music I love playing, and I think Neil knows that. And then the last movement has some elements of Johann Sebastian Bach in it. There's a lot of counterpoint in it, and to me, using Bach as a sort of departure point is such a beautiful way to end this piece very poignantly as well. So yeah, I do feel that's the long answer. The short answer is that I do feel that Neil was writing it for me because I immediately related to everything in the piece.
That's incredible. That's such a beautiful that was such a beautiful answer. And I love the idea of I wrote it down polystylistic. I've actually never used that word to describe music before for some reason. I always just said like genre hopping, but polystylistic is much cleaner, I think. And yeah, no, I that's so exciting to I'm so excited to hear that and just to hear your interpretation of it, both of your interpretations of it. Thank you for that answer. That was really beautiful. Um, and so I just have one more question for both of you. So I guess, Jeffrey, you kind of answered this, but what would you say is like the main message or like mood of this piece? And why is this piece important for you right now? And why is it important for the times that we're living in right now? Um, Neil, do you want to answer that first? Because it's
Sure,
a question for both of
sure. Um, well, I think of messages in music as um, as not really specific. That is what to me what music does is sort of take me on an internal journey. And so when I'm writing, I'm trying to reflect that internal journey. I mean, I've had I'm going to take a digression here and talk and really talk about the whole polystylistic concept that Jeff brought up. When I was much younger, when I was in graduate school, I um, I was studying, and you learned how to write 12-tone music, and you learned how to do things that were very abstract and that um, were often difficult to really hear and follow. And when my daughter was born, in the middle of that experience, I found myself, um, when I would sing to her and kind of try and put her to sleep and quiet her down, um, I didn't sing Schoenberg. I didn't sing Webern. I sang, children's songs and folk songs. And and at some point doing that, I thought, well, wait a minute. If my job as a composer is to really reflect what I hear, why do I need to do what my teachers are telling me is the correct thing, kind of thing to write? And why can't I just write what I hear? And so, transpose that to 2020 and 2021. And so I kind of, and I guess this also addresses why I initially thought of these as meditations, is that when I'm writing, I think about, well, what do I hear? What if I'm just quiet, if I close my eyes and just imagine sound, what is it that just comes to me? And so that's what I did with these pieces. And it was of course filtered by the fact that I was always aware of Jeff's ability to do a wide range of things and to kind of do them in a way effortlessly, which is apparently effortlessly. So that idea of being able to do things that you don't really expect the piano to do, but that can be just brought off, and that move from different kinds of stylistic ideas from one to the next and kind of pull out some surprises. To have a kind of a angular kind of funky theme that then turns into a fugue, is not something that you kind of expect to happen. Um, and and also just to go from these very complex things to very simple chorale-like chords that that aren't virtuosic at all. They're just beautiful. Um, so um, that to me, that what this does is just, it's a way of reflecting the way that I reacted to all the things that were happening under these constraints. And I can't give a one sentence description of how this should help you move through this, but only say that my job as a composer is to kind of try to capture the feelings and the musical impulses that this brings out to me, and hope that this helps other people ride through as well, and not through just these difficult times, but all difficult times, because they keep coming.
Oh, wow. That was such a beautiful answer. That was so
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's just, yeah, I think that we all were kind of feeling quite on on edge these past 2 years, and it'll be interesting to hear that. on Saturday, how you kind of navigated that in a musical form. So thank
Yeah.
you. Geoffrey, I guess the same question. Yeah, same question goes for you. What do you feel is the mood of this piece, and what does this piece mean to you at this current moment?
I'd mention how many styles are embedded in the piece. And so I could say, I guess, that it means a lot of different things, but in fact, I really feel like it's kind of a portrait of, in some ways, a portrait of the world now, of this pandemic world. Um, I don't, maybe I wouldn't feel this way if the pandemic wasn't going on. Who knows? We always seem to perceive things with filters of our own time, but we we were locked down. We were deprived of a lot of variety in our lives, and this piece expresses a ton of variety, and yet really unified sense as well, through the themes that Neil uses, which come back in various forms throughout the piece, and the arc of the piece itself. There are, feelings of isolation, of hallucination. Sometimes there's a lot of very witty, vibrant, virtuosic music in it, which has a very sort of game quality to it. Um, there's the funk elements that I mentioned. There are the contrapuntal elements that are just very stimulating and engaging. And there's this finale, which is the most extended movement, where we get both Bach and one of my favorite passages in the piece, where there's this beautiful sort of neo music that exists on a kind of neoclassical popular music spectrum, and then it moves into something um, gradually more dissonant and feverish, and then these loopers start working with my piano part, and it grows and multiplies, um, and this idea of compellingly unexpected things in our lives, I guess, which is and very dramatically portrayed in these two passages in this final fantasy. So I do feel like it's reflective of the time today. I feel like, ending with the Bach idea is extremely poignant, and the way Neil does it is absolutely fantastic and so beautifully effective. I love the ending of the piece so much. Um, and So both reflective of our own time, and I think just reflective of who Neil and I are, and what a lot of a lot of the variety I feel like I was missing uh, during the lockdown actually entailed is in this piece.
I'm so, as I said, I'm so excited to hear it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Geoffrey. Um, thank you, Neil, for being
Okay.
here. Thank you, Geoffrey, for being here. And I will see you on Saturday, and
See
we
you
can't
on
wait.
Saturday.
And yeah, don't forget, buy tickets, tribecanewmusic.com. That is the concert is Saturday, December 4th. It's the world premiere of Lockdown Fantasies. You'll see Neil and Geoffrey there, and I'll be there too. So yes, can't wait to see you. Thank you.
Really enjoyed this. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everyone who might be watching or listening. And please join us this Saturday if you can.
Thank you all, and I'm really looking forward to Saturday and the world premiere of this piece.